I will tell you as a real estate agent, this bothers me so much to see that number of 90% of home buyers regret buying their home. That's just telling me that this market has put pressure and fear into a lot of people. It doesn't have to be that way. Look, I understand everyone's concerned. The prices keep going up by the day. The interest rates keep going up. Inflation is going up. I understand that. But don't ever go into a situation where you're going to put yourself in like serious financial trouble. You have to really make sure that buying a home, whatever home it is the right purchase for you, and you're researching everything about it. You read that title right. 90% of home buyers, specifically millennials, regret buying a home. This is the latest report from Real Estate Witch. I actually did a report on this last year, right around this time last year, and that number was 82% of home buyers regretted buying their homes. Now it's shot up to 90%. What is going on here? I'm going to talk about these stats today. I'm also going to share with you some stats of what the home buyer expectations are for 2024. There's some pretty interesting facts in there too that I'm going to discuss. And then I'm going to wrap this whole thing up and I'm going to tell you how to avoid these regrets. And also with these expectations, it's really disturbing. And I want to share my thoughts on that one too. So stick around. This is going to be a good one, guys. Let's get started. The common regret. You ready? 27% are complaining about the location, that they bought a house in a bad location. I feel like I'm talking about this every week, about when you buy a home, you really got to consider the location because you will regret it down the road. As much as you say when you're looking at the house, doesn't matter. We can live with being on a busy road and the double yellow line and the cars whizzing by. We can live with, the highway, practically down the street, and we can hear all the traffic from the highway going by. It's okay. We can do that. But now here we are. So 27% regret their bad location. Oh my God. Another regret is moving next door to bad neighbors. Yes, 26% of the home buyers say that they regret moving next door to the neighbors.
What are you looking at?
Your fly is down.
It's my yard.
25% say they regret the high interest rates. 22% say they have expensive mortgages. And 20% saying they're outgrowing their home too quickly. Oh, dear Lord. I want to touch on each of these regrets and share with you like my thoughts on this. Let's start off with the bad location. And I see this a lot. And I'm like, again, I feel like I'm talking about this all the time. The bad location that's a big issue. And to me, that's somebody buying a home on emotion and FOMO. Don't do that. That is one hill I will die on. Don't ever buy a home in a bad location. I don't care how bad you want the house, how much you need it. And this is a perfect example of all these people that now regret living in a bad location because you know what's going to happen? It's going to be harder for them to sell it. It is, because other people are going to just say, I don't want to live there. I don't like that location. Duh. And then they're going to end up selling it for less money. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen all the time. And any of my buyers out there, that I've worked with, if you're watching this, you all know I've said it to you. And when you were looking at a house that's not the best location, I tell them right then and there. I will scream it till the cows come home.
Are you serious?
Tell them, I don't think you should buy this house. This is not a good location. 99.9% of my buyers have listened to me. Thumbs up! I had that 0.1% that said they didn't care. They had a highway right above their backyard. I am not kidding you, but they didn't care. They swore up and down. And you know what? Thank God I have not heard back from them. They still love their house. They love the location. Good for them. Now, touching on the bad neighbors. That one's a little hard to research on, right?
Hell to the yeah.
You don't always know who you're moving next door to. It's not like you can knock on the neighbors' doors and talk to them. Some people do. I've had buyers that do that. They've seen the neighbors, mulling around their yard, and they go out and talk to the neighbors just to, get a feel for them, get a feel for the neighborhood. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. So I can understand that. I myself lived it. My first house that we bought, and it wasn't the people that we moved next to. The people next door to us sold their house to people that were just not the best neighbors, not the friendliest, not the easiest to deal with.
How you doing? You're going to love this neighborhood. Every single house here recycled.
Yeah. was not the best experience. So that is one thing you really can't control. You can't really control who your neighbors are. So I can understand how that can be a big frustration. There's not much research you can do. There's not much you can do about it, but just kind of hope for the best, you know? What I would do, try to find a neighborhood where you have friends that live in the neighborhood or family, you know the neighborhood. That might be a way to reassure you that you're going to be living among good neighbors. 25% regret the high interest rates. I get this because you felt the pressure, because there was all this talk that we're going to continue to rise, but don't worry, in a couple of years, rates are going to come back down and you can refinance. I know a lot of people were pitched that line. I know. And I have a lot of real estate agents that actually hate that line. What is it? Marry the house and date the rate? Yeah. And I believe a lot of millennials got sucked into that.
Yeah.
Down the road, the rates could come back down. They're coming back down now. You do have an opportunity to refinance. So keep that in mind. But if the interest rates are scaring you, just hold out. If you don't have to move, you can wait it out and keep saving your money. You don't have to jump. You don't have to do that. Just sit back and wait. The expensive mortgages, 22% were complaining about that and have regrets about that. Yeah, mortgages are expensive, especially when you're buying a house and you're closing on one. There are closing costs that are associated. It's a lot. This is telling me that people are just, whatever reason, I feel like they're not getting properly educated about buying a home, about what's involved, what all the costs and fees are. I hope I'm wrong here, but
You're absolutely right.
so many years later, you're coming back complaining about expensive mortgages and the high interest rates. I hope you worked with a good mortgage lender that walked you through this, because if you didn't, then I think this is why you're in the situation you're in now.
That's exactly the answer I wanted.
The last regret, that's outgrowing the home too quickly, and that was 20%. Do not buy the first home you see. And if it's like, 1,000 square feet and you're expecting a baby, yeah, you're going to outgrow that home. As soon as that baby starts to walk and you're going to get all sorts of toys. Yeah. One of my clients bought a condo and they just had a baby, was great. But guess what? 2 years later, he's like, I'm ready. We got to get out of here. It's like, it's too small. I can't handle this with all the toys. Fortunately, we were able to sell it. They got a great price and then we got them to a house. It was awesome. But if you are expecting a child, or you have a child that's like an infant, not walking yet, maybe wait a little bit, continue to save your money. Don't go out and buy the first thing you see, because it may not meet your needs. You could outgrow it. And then what if you have another baby? Then you're really in trouble. The hidden cost of homeownership significantly contributed to the regrets of these home buyers. Besides the mortgage, homeowners have spent $17,500 annually on taxes, insurance, maintenance, and home repairs. This is another thing that kills me. Home buyers, I feel, are going in, I want to say misinformed, because they're forgetting that when you go and move into this house, you're going to have to pay for the upkeep. And this is one of the biggest regrets of home buyers, of how expensive it is to own a home. It is. When you're creating your monthly budget, you have to take into account all the other expenses. You have to set money aside, an emergency fund for when those things break, when the HVAC breaks, when the water heater breaks. You have to be prepared for those things. And I feel like a lot of people are they're not there. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about the end game. I just want to get into a house. When I went further into this report from Real Estate Witch, they went on to talk about what the expectations are of millennials for buying a home in 2024. And they also polled millennials to see, how they feel about affordability, how they feel about the interest rates. There's some interesting numbers in here, and especially what millennials are willing to accept in a house. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about this. This is really worrying me. So let's get into this here. 1 in 9 millennials would still offer $100,000 or more over asking price for their dream home. I'm seeing it today, guys. I'm seeing it here in Jersey. People are paying $100K over ask. And I know you're all probably screaming at me right now, screaming at me while you're watching me on your phone, your computer, or TV. But look, I feel like this is like become a norm now, that this is what buyers are expecting. And that's just so disturbing to me. It really is. Now, let's add to that. It goes on to say that half of millennials won't put 20% down on a home. They won't. That is a concern there, especially because of the high interest rates. If you put 20% or more down, less than the amount you need to borrow, it's going to keep that mortgage payment a little bit more doable, right? But to see this, that half of millennials won't even put 20% down, well, there you go. This is why so many of them now feel that it's just too expensive to pay a mortgage. Here's another interesting stat. 1 in 4 millennials worry that they won't qualify for a mortgage. This bothers me too. 85% of millennials have some form of non-mortgage debt, with 22% owing more than $50,000 and 57% owing more than $10,000. That means the percentage of millennials, 57%, who have $10,000 in debt is more than double the percentage, 25%, who have $10,000 in savings. Did you get that? Now, that's really bothersome. When it comes to actually buying a home, these are some interesting stats for our millennial friends. 85% of millennials would buy a home sight unseen. It goes on to say here that tech-savvy millennials feel comfortable buying just about anything online. Oh, that's the truth. Absolutely. Now, when they compare it to boomers, 60% of boomers would buy a home sight unseen. And it goes on to say, notably, 1 in 5 millennials, 21%, would also buy a home sight unseen if they thought interest rates were about to rise and they needed to move quickly on a home purchase. Here we go again. We're going back to the emotion, going back to the fear, the FOMO, all of that. This is then going to lead to the regret down the road that you paid too much, it's too expensive, what have you. Now, this stat is so shocking to me. You ready for this one? 2 in 3 millennials would purchase a home with asbestos or mold. What? Thought process behind this is because of the lack of homes, millennials are willing to pursue homes that are not in high demand, those that are fixer-uppers or have mold or have asbestos, and they figured, okay, we'll deal with it, we'll spend the money on that. We go back to the whole regret that it's so costly to maintain a house, right? Doing all the repairs, but yet this is the mindset that they have because there's no homes that they're willing to go ahead and just buy a house with mold or asbestos in it. Oh my God, that's another thing I would never advise a client to do. I would say walk away from it. It's not worth it. I'd be looking at another one that has less issues, and you're going to be spending a lot of money making those repairs. I would not be doing that. This one absolutely destroyed me, that they are at a point now, there's nothing available, so they will accept a house with asbestos or mold. Oh dear God, what has happened? If we're going to be comparing millennials and boomers, look, millennials tend to make rash decisions. They make them on the fly and they're making them based on emotion. Boomers, not so much. Boomers will have, they have more experience. They've owned a home or two at this point. They're willing to sit back and wait. And look, I'm not trying to create a battle here between millennials and boomers, but I think this is the problem why we have 90% of them are regretting buying their home, because again, it's based on emotion and making those rash decisions. So work with a real estate agent that's really going to thoroughly educate you on the home buying process and also what to look for in homes. Work with an experienced mortgage lender that's going to go into detail about everything that you're going to need to lay out when it comes to the closing costs and what those monthly payments are going to be. But most importantly, you want to understand what's going on with the housing market. And if you want to learn about what's going on in this housing market for 2024, you can watch this video right here. Thank you so much for watching me today. And to get your dose of real estate reality, my name is Jackie Baker, and I will see you next time.